So Nancy's question is, hey, Michelle, we are seeing a whole bunch of negative ads that your opponent put out saying that you're defunding the police. Can you talk about that? Well, first I'll say both the Kansas Reflector and the Iola Register fact-checked them and said that he was lying. 2 independent sources said those things were lies. And it's easy to find if you go to the City of Topeka budget that after I became mayor, our police department has grown $5 million in their budget, and it now is exceeding $40 million total. Now, what's happening in the City of Topeka is that we've been having conversations about how do we ensure that everybody stays safe. We've been talking about how do we make sure that when our officers are in a predominantly black neighborhood, they know that that neighborhood has their back. Because guess what? I want to make sure that my black brothers and sisters, when they're in the presence of an officer, know that they're going to come back home. And the shared value here is safety, is dignity, right? And I find it atrocious that because our community has been doing amazing things, like having a program called Strengthening Police and Community Relations, where we go with our officers to different neighborhoods to hear the concerns of the neighborhood, that we have a police officer in any neighborhood improvement association, that we have police officers that partner with our schools so that they have relationships with our kids. Those things are considered bad. So those are my radical policies. Making sure that my officers don't have to be mental health professionals because they're working with Vallejo, our mental health community organization. Making sure that my officers have relationships with Big Brothers, Big Sisters, so that kids see an officer and see a hero. But I guess that is radical. So those are the radical ideas that my opponent says that I am espousing, and that because of those, I am anti-police, which is the farthest thing from the truth. I love my police officers. Absolutely love the heroes in our police department. But because you love your people, you make sure that everybody feels safe. It's about equity. And the reality is that nationwide, we are seeing horrible things. Breonna Taylor, George Floyd. These were things that happened to the hands of bad cops. And we need to acknowledge that those things are happening and create training so that we evaluate what somebody else did so that we never have to deal with it. And if that's radical, so what? But for the record, I am not defunding the police. We have given $5 million more. And again, the Kansas Reflector and the Iola Register both said independently that those were lies. And it's sad. Thank you. You know, and what I will add to that, Nancy, is the fact that if you guys have seen my commercials, the quote unquote negative commercial is policy based. That is a true statement. And everything else that I've done never speaks of my opponent, because that's just not the way that we need to do politics. Kansas deserves better than the swamp. Kansas deserves better. We don't have to speak ill about each other in order for us to win a race. That should be our number one marker of character right there. Other questions or comments? I'm here to listen to you. Absolutely. So he was talking about the two big hot topic issues are abortion and Second Amendment. And first, I'll talk about the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment is something that I absolutely respect. If you want to have a firearm, if you have a ranch and you need that for your safety of your cattle, if you use it for sport, whatever it is, if you want to have a firearm, by all means, our Constitution allows for you to do that. But guess what? The same way that I have to get a driver's license test and make sure that I am safe to drive a vehicle before I get on the road, the same way it should be with firearms. We also must ensure that anybody that has battered their partner and has a history of violence does not have access to them, because that's how bad things happen. It's not the firearm, it's making sure that the individuals that have access to them are safe. That's my stance. Apparently that's radical as well. So yeah, I know. And you know, that's all that it is. It's just making sure that the people that have them look. In the city of Topeka, I think it was last year, we recovered 111 guns that were left in a car and thieves took them. So we had 111 reports of people that left their gun just lying in their car, and when people broke into their car, people had access to them. We can't have that in our communities. Our goal is to ensure that the individuals that are not supposed to have access to them don't have easy access to them. that if you do have a firearm at home, that you hide it well enough so that your children don't have access to it. Okay? It's as simple as that. It's about taking care of each other. That's the only value that I have with the Second Amendment. Now, thank you. Now, with regards to abortion, I shared part of my journey with making a choice in my life. And that was that when I got pregnant with my son, I was still homeless. And I was offered $250 so that I could take care of that issue. And I said no. What I haven't shared is that my oldest daughter, when I was pregnant with her, they found in one of the sonograms that typically when you're in the first few weeks, the baby's down here. Mine was all the way up here, and it was because I had a tumor in my uterus. At 20 weeks, things got even more complicated, and I ended up having fatty liver in pregnancy. And for anybody that has any knowledge of the medical field, that is a life or death situation. And I was offered to terminate pregnancy because they didn't know if the tumor was pulling from the blood supply, what the baby was going to end up being, what was going to happen with her, and then most importantly, they didn't know if I could survive. And the doctor said, hey, you're young, you can still have another baby, but you should really give this some serious consideration. And after bawling my eyes out, the first thing that I did after talking to my then husband was went to church. And I was leading worship at Hope Community Church in Andover. And I'll never forget that Pastor Steve started talking about this lady that was having issues with her pregnancy. And I'll never forget that I was just like, oh my God, Jose, who else is going through this? And it was me. And he called me up and the church gathered around me and prayed. And I chose to have my child, even though I knew that I was in a bad marriage and that my life could be taken from me. But guess who and by the way, when Christina was born, Pastor Steve was one of the first people to hold her. And she was perfect. She was absolutely beautiful. There were no politicians in that room making that determination for me. That is between me, my God, my family. It is not the job of any politician to tell a woman what to do with her body. So I don't advocate for Medicaid for all. My opponent says that I do, but I don't. My stance is that we have to expand Medicaid in Kansas. And what that does, a lot of people don't understand, and it's complicated stuff. So I'm going to try to break it down so that you understand where the gaps are currently with our system. So when the Affordable Care Act was passed, it was a cornerstone policy that ensured that people with pre-existing conditions had access to health care, okay? That's the most important thing. And for those that are concerned about, that is a very democratic thing. It was actually started by Dole in the 90s, a Kansan. And it was instituted by a Kansan, Kathleen Sebelius. So it's a Kansas product, guys. It's got to be good. So no, in reality, so the Affordable Care Act legislation was passed, but at the same time that passed, what it did is it created an exchange for individuals that either did not have insurance to their employers or were not qualifying for pure Medicaid, okay? And they could go in there and apply for different tiers of insurance. Now, if you fall in the gap, which means that you don't qualify for Medicaid, which is free insurance through the state, but you don't qualify to pay the amount of dollars. For example, my sister, when she went through the exchange, she would have had to pay $520 a month because she makes $12 an hour. That legislation was written with Medicaid expansion dollars so that the people that are receiving free Medicaid from the state then now have an extra pool of dollars that will help subsidize those that fall in that gap, okay? So my desire is that once I get to Washington, I am going to make sure that the ACA is not touched. There's 3 lawsuits right now threatening the ACA. And we keep hearing, I'm going to protect your pre-existing conditions. How? Show me the legislation. Show me the plan. Show me the plan. There is no plan. There is no plan. So we have to make sure that the ACA is still available, that the expansion dollars are still available, and that already option is fortified so that people have access to good care. At the same time, for individuals that have private insurance because their employments are paying for them, because their unions that work for them are able to keep their insurance. the concern that I have is not about socializing, like people say, our whole health system. It's about making sure that those that are falling down the cracks get coverage. And if you guys want to know how important this is, our Kansas hospitals are paying the additional 10%. They are demanding pretty much that we have expansion because the lack of insurance has had our hospitals closed. We had 4 hospitals closed. So that's what expansion is. That's what Medicaid is. And my job is to make sure that those dollars are still coming to the state and that we still have pre-existing condition protection through the ACA. And his question is, what do we need to do to make sure that I succeed in this race? I need not only vote, it's more. We're in the last few days, we're calling people. So Stephanie, who's around here, Steph, wave your hand. Okay, Stephanie can help you guys get connected with calling. We are calling people all across the district to make sure that they turn out and they vote. I need you to have crucial conversations with your Republican brothers and sisters and let them know that there's a candidate that colors outside of the party lines and is not concerned about the D or the R or the I, that is concerned about people. We need to make sure that people feel like they are being heard. What I'm doing, thank you. What we're doing here is not what's happening in other places. Most politicians travel around, they say their spiel, and they're like, okay, I said what I had to say, goodbye, don't ask me anything. I don't hear you, goodbye, I don't have any time. That is not my style, and it will not be my style. Jeremy can tell you that in the middle of the pandemic stuff, I was calling to make sure that everything was okay, and if there was anything, and he's like, well, it's interesting that you're calling, you're not even my elected official, and you're checking in on me. And that's just who I am. I care. So people need to know that there's somebody that cares and that there's another option. And we need to get people out to vote, and we need to engage people. There's a whole bunch of independents and people that are still undecided. And it's our job to engage in those sometimes uncomfortable conversations and make sure that people turn out, especially in Crawford County. We need Crawford County. So thank you for saying that. His comment was beautiful. He's like, can you speak a little bit about the protesting? Because there's a negative connotation that every single person that says that Black Lives Matters hates the police department, it's already a looter. That is false. That is false. The same way that I would like to have not the president say that white supremacy is bad because they are looting and destroying and hurting people, I am happy to say that there's people in the fringes that take advantage of individuals saying that Black Lives Matters to cause destruction. And it is never acceptable. Destruction is never acceptable. Peaceful protesting and speaking your word, absolutely. It's not just our right, it's our duty to say when something is wrong. And the fact that we have our Black brothers and sisters being criticized for saying that Black Lives Matter and automatically being tied to looters and people that want to hurt other people is very sad. It is not true. And I don't stand with destruction and defacing property and hurting others. That is never the way to solve anything. Ever. Ever. Yes, sir. So we had our 2 debates, and very much like you stated, a lot of the first debate, he was very heated, and it was very much attacking. It seems like Mr. LaTurner's running against Pelosi and not me. I've never met her, so it was just the same rhetoric, and I just stuck to the issues on both debates. Last debate, we had a chance to ask each other a question, and I think that one of the most marked moments was when he said that I raised the price of electricity, to which I responded that I am not in charge of utility rates. So yeah, and then I reminded him that he increased the sales tax on food extremely high, so much that it was the highest sales tax that we've seen in the state of Kansas. But you know, in reality, it was not, and I will speak in credit to him, his words were divisive, but neither of us raised our voices at each other. So he did not yell at me, and I did not yell at him. So if somebody said that, I want to make sure that I set that record straight. Yes. Yes, they are WIBW. You could go watch the one last night, and the one before is on KSNT. And you could go to Facebook and look it up, or you could go to the websites and you could see both. They're really short. They're 30-minute debates. It's already started. If you look at the commercial, he has me, when I was marching in the Black Lives Matters march, next to my chief. He cut my chief of police out and just grabbed like a snippet. And then I did a press conference in which in the background, my chief is there too. And I'm saying that, hey, defunding the police is a really bad marketing term. Here's what we're doing in the city of Topeka, which is all about the community stuff. And he has a website that he's made that's called Michelle Defunds the Police or something like that. So the dirtiness has started. It started. But here's the deal. When they go low, we go high. And his behavior is not going to change mine. And I would hope and pray that the people of Kansas can see through the nastiness. And they could make their decision just on character only. The way that both campaigns have been run are so different. And my prayer is that people in Kansas are tired of that, and that in November, we're going to see that the demands of Kansas is that we deserve better. They want something better. Yes. So I don't like the divisiveness, which is why the whole time I've been talking about being kind to our Republican brothers and sisters, because it's so important that we start, if we want things to be different in Washington, D.C., it's not enough that our leaders have to act that way. Our citizens all have to model that behavior and expect that behavior and not be okay with nasty behavior. So I'm not so much concerned about the way that people are running their D and their R races. I just want to make sure that I take care of people like you. I'm not concerned about what they're doing. I'm just focused on you guys. If you notice, I have my mask with me. And I'm trying to stay away from people because I wouldn't want anybody to be sick. And I know that it's sometimes really hard when people walk into a business and they're not wearing their mask. Just make sure that she has her mask. And one of the things that can be suggested to that workplace is that they have a little box of masks outside so that if people are coming in without one, you can say, hey, you know what? We have some masks out there. Would you be so kind and consider wearing it? But there's going to be individuals that are not gonna put the mask on. And you just have to take care of yourself for now. We have a mandate by the governor for us to wear a mask, but we know that not everybody's gonna listen, and you have every right to be concerned. Just make sure that if she feels like she's compromised, that she's got asthma or anything that could make her really, really sick with this virus, that she asks for somebody else to take care of that customer. But that's very kind of you to be concerned for somebody else's well-being. So first of all, the first thing that needs to happen is that we all need to be on the same page. This whole thing of people in the cities and the counties trying to talk to individuals one-on-one to say, like she's saying, hey, this is a real thing. It's a virus. I'm concerned about my safety. And then at the national level, you have a completely different rhetoric. Has to stop. So the first thing is communication, because it's creating confusion. I mean, so like right now, there's a group of doctors that are coming up with this manifesto saying that the virus is not even, that we need to do herd immunity. If we do herd immunity, more people are going to die. We can't have that. So we have to stop with this nonsense. Second thing we need to do is we need to ensure that everybody has access to testing. We need to ensure that we are working to make sure that we have the proper public safety support, in the sense that once somebody is identified, that we have enough people that are being able to contact trace and provide the resources that families need. That our families that are being displaced by employment have support, because this is by no fault of their own. And it drives me insane that right now in DC, both parties are playing politics instead of talking about people. Our unemployment levels keep rising. Families and kids keep falling behind. We have to stop. We have to work on a relief package that goes to the counties directly, that goes to the communities that have the small businesses, that work with the individuals that are in need. And as we're doing that, we have to continue supporting our economy. The PPP dollars that came down, by and large, went to bigger businesses. And I was in a class the other day that was showing that each job that we saved cost us $300,000. That's not good economic justice. We need to make sure that those dollars come back to the community, that support people, and that we're helping people in their time of need. And I think that those are just the basics that DC should be pushing for, instead of fighting about politics right now. Yes. Before I leave, I just want to say, guys, thank you. Thank you for your support, for your kindness of being here on this cold, windy day, for wearing your mask, because it's like the simplest thing that we could do to take care of each other. Thank you. And please, I hope that you leave understanding that there is so much at stake in this election. Not just in mine. Governor Kelly is going to be up for re-election pretty soon. And before her re-election, we need to make sure that she's got people that she could work with. Jeremy, where's he at? Jeremy needs to work with good people. And if you got good people, keep bringing in good people that he's working with. And when it's his time, look at him. Leadership matters at every level. And if you didn't think that the school board was important, I'm sure that now you're reconsidering that one, right? Every level of government matters. And no matter whether we are the person that was elected to clean the floor, all the way to the President of the United States, we're just people. And our pure intention should be to serve every one of you, whether we agree or not. Let's take care of each other. Let's make these 17 days historic. Let's turn out the vote in ways that we've never seen before. And let's restore the soul of our country, guys. Thank you.